Marcus was a 25-year-old man working at Tesla for about 3 months. Unlike his co-workers, who chatted and joked during breaks or occasionally complained about traffic, Marcus stayed quiet and reserved. He was always the first to arrive at work and the last to leave. Nobody knew the full extent of his struggles that Marcus was homeless. Each evening, after finishing his shift, Marcus would discreetly leave the factory, his lunchbox tucked under his arm. He walked a few blocks to a small park, where he would unroll an old sleeping bag beneath a cluster of trees and settle down for the night. Despite the biting cold, Marcus never complained. Life had already thrown more at him than he thought he could endure. Losing his wife to cancer a year ago had left a gaping hole in his heart, and the mounting medical bills eventually cost him his home. Though life seemed unbearably harsh, Marcus refused to give in to despair. He was determined not to beg or rely on handouts. Every morning, he made his way to a nearby gas station to clean up as best he could. He pressed his uniform, ensuring he looked presentable, and reported to work on time. For Marcus, dignity was priceless, and he wasn't about to let his circumstances rob him of it. One fateful Tuesday, whispers of excitement buzzed through the factory. Elon Musk himself was paying a visit. Workers craned their necks for a glimpse of the visionary entrepreneur who had revolutionized the electric car industry. When Elon finally appeared, flanked by managers and engineers, the factory fell silent. To Marcus' surprise, Elon wasn't dressed in a suit as he had imagined, but instead wore a simple black shirt and jeans. Elon walked the floor, shaking hands and asking questions about production. At that moment, Marcus was engrossed in adjusting a faulty battery pack, completely unaware of the commotion around him. He didn't notice the approaching footsteps until a calm voice broke his concentration. "What's going on here?" Marcus looked up, startled, and found himself face to face with Elon Musk. His heart raced as he explained nervously, "Sir, the battery pack wasn't aligning properly, so I'm adjusting the frame." Elon crouched down to examine Marcus' work closely. "You figured this out yourself?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the moment's wait. "I noticed it wasn't working correctly." For a few moments, Elon said nothing. Then he stood up and turned to Mr. Anderson, Marcus' supervisor, who looked visibly anxious. "Make sure this man gets proper acknowledgement," Elon said firmly, pointing to Marcus. "It's people like him who keep this place running." A wave of murmurs swept through the factory, and a few workers even clapped. Marcus' face flushed red with embarrassment, but he quickly refocused on his task. Elon gave him a small nod and continued his tour of the factory. However, as Elon walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something unique about Marcus. That evening, as Marcus prepared to leave, Mr. Anderson approached him. "Good work today, Marcus," he said. Marcus thanked him quietly before heading out the gates, unaware that Elon had taken more than just a passing interest in him. Later that night, Elon sat in his office and asked his assistant to pull up Marcus' information. What he discovered left him stunned. Marcus' records were irregular, with no permanent address and a lack of contact information. The pieces fell into place. Marcus was homeless. Elon leaned back in his chair, contemplating the young man's situation. Finally, he picked up the phone, made a call, and issued a simple directive: find him by morning. The next morning, Marcus woke to the familiar chill of the park air. After packing his sleeping bag and heading to the gas station to freshen up, he looked at his reflection in the cracked mirror. Another day, he thought, resigned. As he arrived at the factory, he noticed hushed whispers among his co-workers, their glances lingering on him. Feeling self-conscious, Marcus brushed it off and got to work. Before he could start, a man in a sharp black suit tapped him on the shoulder. "Marcus Jones?" the man asked. "Yes," Marcus replied cautiously. "Mr. Musk wants to see you. Follow me," the man said. Marcus' heart sank. What could Elon Musk possibly want with him? As he followed the man through the factory, his co-workers watched, whispering curiously. The man led Marcus to a sleek, modern office that smelled of fresh coffee. Behind the desk sat Elon Musk, who greeted Marcus with a small smile. "Marcus," Elon began, gesturing for him to sit. "I found out something last night," His voice was calm but serious. "I know you're sleeping outside, is that true?" Marcus frowned, gripping his knees. Before he could respond, Ellen reassured him, "You're not in trouble, I just want to help." No one had ever spoken to Marcus like this before. He struggled to find words. Ellen continued, "You're a hard worker. You don't complain. You don't ask for favors. That's rare, and people like you deserve better." Ellen stood up and handed Marcus an envelope. Inside, you'll find the details of an apartment, fully paid for a year, and a car to get you there. Marcus stared at the envelope, his hands trembling. "Why would you do this for me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ellen smiled warmly. "Because you've earned it." Tears filled Marcus' eyes as he accepted the envelope. For the first time in years, he let them fall. By the end of the day, the factory was abuzz with the news. The quiet, hard-working man everyone had overlooked was being given a second chance at life, thanks to Elon Musk. That night, Marcus moved into his new apartment. As he held the keys, they felt foreign in his hands, like something out of a dream. He opened the door to find a fully furnished home, a warm bed, a stock kitchen, and even a television. For the first time in years, Marcus slept under a real roof, and this time, it wasn't temporary. Reflecting on his incredible turn of fortune, Marcus muttered to himself, "Elon Musk is a kind and generous man. He changed my life in an instant, without hesitation, even though I'm just a worker and not family." This touching story reminds us that compassion and recognition can transform lives. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Have a wonderful day.